Have you ever wanted to do a course on classic literature? Or maybe you've got a background in literature, but you want to reignite that passion that you once had for reading and for experiencing the joys of story through the eyes of a great author or a great narrator. Well, I've got some great news if that's you. I've put together a completely free course on classic literature, and you can access it right here on YouTube. The way it works is I've collated a lot of my lectures about literature, about my experience with them, insights into them over reading for years, and put them all together for you so that if you're new to the classics or deciding it's that time to dig into the splendours and the joys and the vividness of these brilliant works that are open to us, then these lectures will take you through. It's not just 5-minute talks, they're from 25 minutes to an hour long, and they will really help you see how to approach ways of reading, to enjoy and just suck out the marrow and the juice of stories, not over academically, but in a way to thoroughly enjoy them, to get to the root of being a human, which is what they're all about. And what I thought I'd do is I'd just give you a whistle-stop tour of the 10 videos that I've put together in this list so that you can introduce yourself to the classics. By the way, I do have to say, you don't have to take these videos in the order that I've put them, but I've arranged them in a way that I think is most logical. So the first video in this course of lectures is why you don't need a degree to read the classics. And what this talks about is the misconceptions that often put us off reading classic literature because the world has made it seem such a highbrow endeavour. It reminds us of the truth that classic works are actually stories. They are novels, and for the most part were written to entertain the ordinary person. We look at a couple of the reasons that we can hold ourselves back, and also in that video some of the joys you can expect on reading the classics. In fact, you get a couple of excerpts from the classics in there so that you can just realise how thoroughly enjoyable and accessible they really are to everybody. The second video in the series is about how to build your own classic library. There's so many classics to pick from, and sometimes we feel that we have to read certain ones like War and Peace and Anna Karenina, these monumental works which may not be your cup of tea. How do you actually go about building a classic library that will enhance your reading, will make you more deeper in your appreciation of the art of story and literature, but be tailored specifically to what you love? This video is all about that. How to build a classic library that you're going to start with and enjoy from the first book, and then how you can grow that out to widen your taste in literature. The third video in the series is a talk in which I'll introduce you to one of the most rewarding and beneficial activities you can do when reading, which over time not only builds a much keener insight into what you're reading, but also gives you a treasure trove of beauty and poetic expressions which you can read back on and remember the delicacies, the choicest pieces of the books that you've read in the past. This video is really good. The fourth video deals with the issue of if you're a slow reader. However, in case you're not a slow reader, I wouldn't skip this because there's real practical tips on how to ponder, and what I talk about is getting off the train. Instead of seeing the journey of a book as if you're on a train going through a landscape, to step off and become a citizen of the pages. This will really help you if you consider yourself a slow reader and find that your joy is diminished by rushing because you want to keep reading more and more. You're looking more to end a book than to enjoy a book. And for those of you who are already pretty fast readers, this will actually give you pause for thought on how to actually savour a book more fully. The fifth video in the playlist is a talk which I think arguably is one of the best in the whole set of 10 videos, because it draws back the curtain on the sorcery, the magic acts that writers perform on us that make classic literature what it is. And this one's entitled 5 Tips That Modern Writers Can Learn from Classic Literature. Classic literature has lasted from generation to generation for a reason. And when you start analysing it a little more carefully, by the way, you don't have to in this video, I've taken it from my own experience, we just look at 5 things that the more you ponder on them, the more you appreciate just what's going on in a book, just what makes a book really fine, why they last. This is a video you really don't want to miss. The 6th video is the somewhat ostentatiously named How to Read a Book Like a Professor. What this is about, I think this is nearly an hour long, this video, but it talks about a method that you can go into a book. In fact, I recommend you do this with every book that you read, especially the classics, where you can start getting hands-on with the book you're dealing with to really help you come mind to mind with the author, to touch the work, to feel it, to lay upon it, to hug it, to hold it, and to feel it in so much more vibrancy than perhaps you've ever done before. It's not a new technique. Some people do it, but I give you examples, 3 big examples, using 3 different classics of just how to go about really engaging with the author in a bit of mental sparring, as it were. The 7th talk in our free course on classic literature discusses the topic of being well read. What does it mean to be well read? When people approach more grand works, as it were, in their mind, although remember they are novels, they do entertain, we often think about improving ourselves. And the phrase being well read comes to mind. We like the idea of being well informed, having a broad but deep knowledge. But what exactly does being well read entail? And how can you do it? Well, in that video, the 7th one on this list in this course, I explain from my own observations, my own thinking, and what I've done in the past with reading, just what it really means to be well read and a practical way to go about achieving your goal in that area. The 8th video on our free course for classic literature will get you to be far more specific and train your eye on a particular area of the book. And that video is titled How to Read Better, the opening page or the opening chapter. And in that, what we take a look at is we go through some excerpts of just the first page of classic books and explore how we can go about pulling that page apart in a way that's very pleasurable. Again, it's not just academic and dry, but to really dive in and immerse your mind in the scene and the tone and the atmosphere that the author is trying to get you to have at the beginning of the book. This opening page or opening chapter is vital in a book because it's one of the areas the author takes most time. It's here that they want to place you. It's here more than anywhere else, except for the last few pages, where this is how the author feels about their work. And so we get in there and we start breaking down some of the pages, and I'm sure if you were to do it along with the video, it's going to enhance your appreciation of your own reading. The 9th video in our free course on getting into classic literature is one that some might be tempted to skip over, but really, I really advise you to watch this one in particular. It's all about iambic pentameter. Do you know what that is? It's actually the rhythm or the meter that Shakespeare wrote his plays in. You probably heard it at school. Shakespeare wrote an iambic pentameter. Most videos I came across are very basic on this. What we do in this, I think it's about half an hour, 35 minutes, is we take a look at some lines from Shakespeare and see how to identify iambic pentameter and why sometimes you can't see it and what effect it has upon us as a reader, why Shakespeare used it. Now, you may not be into Shakespeare, but I highly recommend that you look at this video, because what it will teach you is the power of words, the power of rhythm, the hypnotic effect that great writers can have on those who read their works or listen to their speech. So that one, the 9th in the course, about iambic pentameter, really, you will enjoy this. If you're just trying to improve your knowledge of literature, you will enjoy it whether you read Shakespeare or not. The 10th and final lecture you'll hear in this course is the grandiosely named The Best Lecture You Will Hear on Shakespeare. I titled it that deliberately just because on YouTube you have to write something that catches attention. But this video is really important, and I've had so much feedback from people who have watched this saying, you finally helped me understand Shakespeare and now I love him. And if you're reading the classics, Shakespeare at some point is someone that you will at least want to dip into. But how do you go about it? How hard really is Shakespeare? Which plays perhaps should you start with? We talk about this in that last lesson. And for those of you who go through it and just trust the process, you've already been building your appreciation of how works are written, the way stories are told, insights you can gain, how to engage in it through all of the previous videos. This one may just give you the impetus to take on the greatest playwright who ever walked this earth, in my humble opinion. His works were written, 400-500 years ago? And they are still played and enjoyed today and can be adapted to infinite different settings that still work. Harold Bloom said of Shakespeare that he invented the human in the modern mind. That is not an understatement. So much of the way we perceive the emotions and humanity comes from Shakespeare's works. The man just had something, an ability to see. And this one lecture may just encourage you to dive in there and have a go. So there you go. That was a whistle-stop tour of the 10 talks or lectures you can find in this free course on classic literature right here in my YouTube channel. Like I said, the playlist will be linked below, or the individual videos. If you want to support this endeavour, if you're appreciative for the effort that goes into it, then by all means leave a link for this video in any reading community you're in, for anyone else to find it. Whether you're on a Facebook group that deals with classic literature, or a Goodreads community, maybe you're on Instagram, or you've got a book club, please share this link so that others can find other ways or new ways to go deeper in their reading, to understand how to just go to another level and get more satisfaction out of the great works. Of course, if you want more, look around my channel. I've got other videos like in-depth reviews of classic books, an hour long. If it's Shakespeare, there's soliloquies that I've done line by line so that you can try and get into those. There's plenty to go with. And of course, I have a Patreon community if you wanted to join us there, where we all together, arm in arm, march along our adventure in literature, learning from the great authors as we go and sharing our ideas. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please remember to subscribe, and until the next time, I wish you joy in whatever you read.